Hello everyone and welcome to today's session. My name is Ken Muraguri. I'm one of the verbal trainers for the Kenya English program GMAT training. So today we'll be looking at a very important aspect of GMAT, which is timing. And this is because we find that in the GMAT exam, if you do not have the proper tactics of employing timing in your exam, you end up leaving so many questions unanswered. That is when you run out of time, and that really affects or tanks your score. So this is what we'll be trying to tackle today. So you find that the GMAT is a time-constrained exam, especially in the verbal section, because you have 36 questions and only 65 minutes to solve these questions. So if you do your math, you find that on average, every question has slightly less than 2 minutes to solve. So, and please note that this we are saying is an average, so it's not that you're required to solve every question under 2 minutes, but it's just to bring to perspective what you're talking about. So why does timing really bring a lot of troubles in verbal reasoning? It's because one, it involves a lot of reading. You'll find that things like critical reasoning and reading comprehension, you're presented with a scenario of a long passage, which you must read and understand before even you go on to answer the questions. And then you have to think the questions through. So every section of verbal reasoning, you really have to understand the meaning of whatever that you're given, if it's in sentence correction or critical reasoning or reading comprehension, you really have to understand. So that's where the critical thinking part comes in. And then you have to employ process of elimination on all the 36 questions. So if you sum these up, they really take a lot of time, and you have to know what strategy to employ so that you can be able to fit all these processes into these 65 minutes to solve the 36 questions. So that's what we'll be looking at today. So this is a general guide when it comes to timing. So one, no question is worth 3 minutes. And this is saying that once you see that you've spent way more than 3 minutes on a question, it's probably not worth it, because if you know that you have on average less than 2 minutes to solve each question, if you use more than 3 minutes, this means that you've spent on one question time that you would have spent on 2 questions. So any question that you spend more than 3 minutes on is another question that you're compromising, which you'll probably have to guess or rush through because you spent too much time on this one question. So the second thing is learn to accept defeat. So we say run when you can't. So if you look at a question and you feel that this question, you've tried all your strategies on it and it isn't working, do not get stuck there. Do not maybe stay for 3 minutes, 4 minutes thinking of how do I solve this question, or how do I eliminate between these two remaining answer choices. So learn to accept that you cannot say solve a question and get it 100%. And when you learn this, you learn that guessing is okay. And I've put an asterisk there because it's not just guessing. Because if, say, you have been able to eliminate 2 out of 5 options, so 2 out of 5, you're remaining with 3 possible answer choices. So if you guess between these 3, you have now a 33% chance of getting it right. If you eliminate 3 out of 5, you remain with 2, then you have a 50% chance of getting the question right. So even if you're saying guessing here, you do your best first, and then you can take a chance on the remaining ones, the ones that now you can differentiate between. So it's smart guessing. It's not just the random guessing, because if you guess randomly, you just have a 20% chance of getting that question correct. So diving onto verbal, Most of the time, a problem that we face is all the options seem like potential answers. Say in sentence correction, you read 3 choices, 4 choices, or 5 choices, and you feel as if all of them are correct. So what are the possible causes of this? One is that you didn't understand the sentence. This is in sentence correction, the passage, or the question. So the question can be either in reading comprehension or critical reasoning. Also, passage can include critical reasoning too. So you read through a passage or a question, and then you don't take a few seconds to really understand the meaning of that sentence or passage. So when you go to the answer choices, you struggle with them. Or you read the question and you don't understand it. And then when you go to the answer choices, all of them seem the same. Another reason is the question is above the difficulty level. As we know, GMAT is an adaptive test, and it raises difficulty or lowers difficulty according to your average, the average or how you perform in the previous questions. So if maybe you are from an easy difficulty and then you are constantly going up to the more difficult questions, if say this is your level, say this is, let's assume it's a level 700, and then you get a question which is meant for like 730, this may happen to you. You may find that you see all choices seeming like they are all the same or potential answers. So you may have gone past your difficulty level. And the good thing with that is, even if you get it wrong and the GMAT lowers the difficulty, it will lower the difficulty to your intended level of difficulty. And this brings about the aspect of being careful not to miss the easy questions, because once you miss the easy questions, you'll never even reach that difficulty level that you're supposed to be.
You're watching Success with Bob Mwiti Show, presented to you by Upstack America. Upstack America is a consulting company that helps immigrants find amazing higher education and job opportunities in the tech industry in the United States. You can find our programs by going to www.upstackamerica.com. Upstack America, we wake you up to the unlimited potential.
Okay, so in sentence correction, because now we are talking specifically of time, so how do you save time in sentence correction? And one thing to note in sentence correction is that it's one of the sections that you can save a lot of time on. Sometimes sentence correction questions are really, really difficult, but especially on the easy and medium levels, you can easily eliminate a lot of answer choices fairly quickly. And these are some of the, this is one section that will help you. Say you can do a question in 30 seconds, you can do it in 1 minute. And then the extra time, you use it in another maybe critical reasoning question or a more difficult sentence correction question. So how do you try to improve your speed in sentence correction? Number one, once you read the question, pause for about 5 seconds and ask yourself, what does this sentence mean? So have that meaning on hand even before you do any elimination. Once you know the meaning now, you can go and eliminate grammar errors, which more or less usually are straightforward. This will take care of maybe at least 50% of the choices. For the remaining choices now, you eliminate based on meaning. And remember, we started by determining the meaning sentence. So here now, this step becomes easier when you're aware of the sentence meaning. That is, if you find an answer choice that has a literal meaning that is off or insinuates something else other than the intended meaning that you found in step one, you may have found a meaning error. That way now you can easily eliminate the meaning errors, and then now you're just left with conciseness. So you remain with one option and you check if it's the most concise. So just adding this first step cuts off a lot of time from this third step. And remember that some of the sentences actually you can eliminate or get the answer purely based on grammatical errors. But now, as you move up the difficulty, you will rarely only eliminate using grammar errors, and you'll have to go into meaning and conciseness. So for critical reasoning, this is the main point: read and understand the passage. So once you read and understand the passage, you make sure that, of course, you do not paraphrase this passage in your head. Just take the passage as it is, as the author intended. Then you find the conclusion if there is one, or the argument, and then you find its associated logic. Once you do this, now you go and answer your question using process of elimination. Because once now you understand these passages, and this works for both critical reasoning and reading comprehension, there is no shortcut to these two sections. You just have to really understand what is being talked about in this passage. And once you understand, the eliminations will be quite easy. So the thing with critical reasoning and reading comprehension especially, you really have to practice. This does not come when, say, you've studied GMAT for 1 week and you expect to get these meanings fairly fast. You really have to practice so that you can be seeing the subtle changes in the passage, or where the meanings have changed, or where the focus has shifted, or if an argument is targeting just one specific part of the stimulus. So this requires a lot of practice, and that is the thing with verbal reasoning. There's no shortcut about it. You really have to practice and practice and practice, and you will eventually get better. And then our last section is reading comprehension. So reading comprehension, you have to build a reading culture. So if you are finding reading comprehension passages difficult, it's probably because you have difficulty extracting the meaning of this passage. So you can begin by building a reading culture, which will not take a short time, to be honest. You will have now to gradually build this habit of reading and actually understanding what is in this passage. So once you get past that, you can be able to build a good passage map, because remember, when building a good passage map, you have to understand what this specific paragraph is about, and then summarize that paragraph. So you really have to have the ability to comprehend. And if you're suffering with this, just do your GMAT studies alongside reading cultures. That is, read a novel somewhere, read articles, read maybe scientific papers. So somehow always try to understand exactly what is being talked about. And then once you do this, every reading comprehension, build a good passage map. Why is this important? Because reading comprehension, maybe you may take even 3 minutes or 4 minutes to read an entire passage and build a passage map. And then if you have really understood this passage, questions you can answer in 30 seconds or 1 minute maximum, because this information is basically from the passage. So if you have understood the passage, if you have a good passage map, answering questions should be very quick. So I see a lot of suffering in reading comprehension because someone takes about 5 minutes to 6 minutes reading the entire passage and then spending 2 minutes per question. So if you multiply 2 minutes by, say, 4 questions, that is 8 minutes. If you add these 6, you get 14 minutes. For 14 minutes for just 4 questions. That is almost 4 minutes per question, which of course will really hurt you as you progress, because you'll have either 1, to rush through questions, or 2, to guess without even reading any question. And reading comprehension, you'll most probably find a reading comprehension question in the last part of your exam. So that is maybe from question 30 onwards. So you really have to learn how to balance between giving the question the time it needs and knowing when to move on from a question. So with that said, I think the last thing I can mention is that if say you spent some time on a question, say 2.5 minutes, and you feel that if you say give it an extra 10 seconds or 15 seconds, you would get it right. Say you are examining the different meanings, so you have two options left, and now you're comparing the meanings of these two. If it's that situation and you feel that giving it 10 seconds or 15 seconds more will help you actually get this question right, spend that extra 10 seconds. But be aware that this is time that you'll have to compensate for as you go on. So in summary, timing in verbal reasoning is very subjective, and it's not that you have to do every question in 1.5 minutes. You don't have to do every question in 2 minutes, but you really have to know, just know at the back of your mind, once you are past the 2-minute mark, you'll have to compensate this time on another question. And remember, if you leave so many questions unanswered, or if you have to guess so many questions, that will probably affect your score. It will probably lower the score that you were supposed to get. So the best solution is, 1, build a good strategy of solving these questions. 2, ensure you understand the exact intended meaning of the author. And then number 3, use your process of elimination. So above all, the more you practice, the better you will be at timing, and you will start to see that you are improving. So with that said, that's the end of our lesson today. I hope you gain something that will help you in your GMAT preparation. So I'll see you in our next lesson. Bye.